Hi everyone, it's Sal Jade and I'm coming to you live today in Tarot Mastery. I am a little bit earlier than the time that I advertised and I apologise for that. I did change the time to be a bit earlier for my lovely students who are in the US on Eastern Standard Time and on Canadian Eastern Standard Time, I think that's what it's called. And I did change it and forgot to change it on the other time, so all around the world. So I met us in the middle. We're 15 minutes early, but we've got a beautiful long session today with lots of great questions. So if you come in late, that's totally fine because there's lots and lots of juicy stuff in here. So I just want to quickly talk about why I'm doing this. So late last year, I started realizing that I really wanted to be able to offer you more value in your Tarot Card Success course. And I know that learning online can be a little bit challenging in terms of having access to your instructor. So I wanted to be able to come live here once a month and give you the opportunity to ask me any questions about the course or anything that you're having challenges with. But also I wanted to share some of the fantastic questions that I've received over the month, because I know that part of the power of learning in a group like this is that we get to see what other people ask and what other people have challenges with, and that often helps us without us even knowing it sometimes. And so I've taken a selection of what people have asked in the Facebook group and a couple of questions that people have asked this month in the Q&A group. And I do suggest, if you don't regularly visit the Q&A group on Udemy or the Facebook group in here, that it is a great resource for just going in and getting even more depth out of the tarot. So before I begin, hello Venice, hi Sonia, hello Marcy, hi Rachel. It's a pleasure to do this. I'm very excited. So before I launch into what we're going to do for the questions today, I just wanted to really briefly thank the incredibly wonderful students who have gone out of their way to write reviews this week and this month and the last time since I've been in touch. I really appreciate those of you who leave some comments to say what you've gotten out of the course and how it's really helped you. It really means the world to me. And I know we had, I think Linda Carney was one I read this morning that was so thoughtful, and Sharon Anderson and Diana wrote one. So thank you to those of you who have taken that time. It really means a lot to me. So what the first question, and what excites me when I get questions in this course is, first of all, when I get a question that I see is existing for quite a few students across the broad parameter. And sometimes I think, well, I should just go and create another lecture about this. But also what I see is that things change and we evolve, not only as humans, but technology evolves, and the way that we can run a tarot business evolves, or the way that, and I learn more. So I figure doing it like this means I can give you, like, I guess the up-to-date, what's going on right now and right today. So I'll get cracking with the first question from the lovely Bawana. And the question that Bawana asks is, so it is basically, I'm learning from the course and I'm working through the course, but I'm still having problems remembering all the card definitions. Now, the first thing I'd say to anyone that's had this experience is you're definitely not alone. And in fact, I don't think I've ever met anyone who's learnt the tarot who has not had problems learning their cards. So first of all, I would just go, okay, think about what it is that you're learning with the tarot. Like, you've got 78 cards and you need to learn them in at least 3 different subjects. So love, money, career, and general. And you need to learn them in at least 20 different positions. And that's just in my course alone. So you're looking at hundreds, and sorry, I forgot, and some of the cards have multiple meanings. So you're looking at, 500 or 600 definitions that you need to remember. So of course, it's not something that's going to be that instant. It's not something that can happen overnight. And I've often said, like, learning oracle cards is just so much easier. I feel like I can teach people in a weekend how to do oracle cards. Whereas with tarot, like, it really is about being able to do as much practice and as much learning in a course as you can. So please don't feel discouraged if you feel like you haven't picked it up straight away, because I don't feel like that many people do pick it up straight away, because there is a lot involved. So to give you the example myself, it took me at least 6 months to really feel super confident with the tarot, and I was practicing all the time. And I'll just add, I had been getting tarot readings and learning for years, like at least 10 years, nearly 15 years before that, with the Thoth deck. So I started with the Thoth deck and the book, and was kind of playing around with it for my own personal journey. And then when I looked at it, doing it and bringing it into my healings and readings, that took a period of 6 months. So please don't fret if you haven't picked it up straight away, because that is something that takes time. And I want to give you, I mean, you might say, okay, great, Sal, takes time. Thanks for that. But I want to give you some strategies to learn as quickly as you can within that 6-month time frame. Now, the first one I would say is try to be aware of how you learn, because I'm going to give some different strategies here, and they might not work for everyone because we're all completely different learners. So from my time of being a school teacher, I know some people are very visual learners. So those kind of people, for example, I could give you some ways to look at so your card comes out and you touch it and tune into it, and I'd say to you, okay, what do you feel this card is saying with the image? And so if you're a very visual learner, you would learn the tarot by just getting a feel, okay, what's going on in the card? Like, instead of worrying about looking it up in the book, just being able to go, okay, well, what's happening? So in the Ace of Wands, for example, you've got a hand bursting through a cloud, and you've got a wand which represents action and physical movement. So it suggests that something, that a fog has been lifted, and basically there's a new physical action that's going on. So look at things like that. Like, what is the card saying in the actual image if you're a very visual learner? The most effective way I find, and I say this in the course, and I think because it's such a big course, maybe sometimes people miss it, but in all the feedback I've gotten over the years of being a tarot teacher, the most effective way to learn the tarot cards for yourself is to actually put every single card as an association with something that you have experienced yourself. And if you haven't experienced yourself, someone you know has experienced it. So what I mean by that is that you are living and breathing the tarot by saying, okay, let's look at the Five of Swords. So that's when you've been in a hostile environment, people have been ganging up on you, you feel like the only way to survive is to use your ego, and you've gone into your ego and you're lashing out with your words and your mind, and you're not really going into your heart. So then you would go, okay, well, when has that happened to me? And I'm sure we've all been in that situation with our families, in work environments, maybe even in our relationships, where we feel like we're just kind of walking on swords just to kind of survive, things like that. So take that beautiful time. It's an incredibly profound spiritual journey. Take the time to, and you can even do it by, so you know how I break the course up into those 4 sections in the beginning of, you start with the Ace to the 10 of Wands, and then the Ace to the 10 of Cups. And so with every card, while you're writing out your notes of what the Ace of Wands means and the Two of Wands means, then take that time then to go, okay, well, when has the Two of Wands happened to me? So the Two of Wands being when you've had to make a decision to physically either leave your job or leave a partner or leave home. When have I been in that situation? And what starts to happen, it's very powerful, is that you start to experience your life as the tarot. Now, as a reader, this is so powerful. So for me now, and I know a lot of the students I've helped with this technique that actually use it frequently, whenever something happens to them, they go, oh, I'm just having a Tower moment. Or, okay, I'm just having a Nine of Wands moment. Or, it's all right, I'm just having, and they start to look at their life and parallel it to the tarot, because the entire spectrum of our life exists within the tarot, which is why it's one of the most powerful divination tools on earth, because the human experience is reflected so beautifully in it. So as I said, now if you have started trying that before, hi Martin, if you've tried that before, if you're like, well, I did that and I really struggled to find out when I'd been the magician or when I'd been the hermit, then look at people in your life and go, okay, what's going on for my mother right now, my sister, my husband? Could they be experiencing any of this? And if you need, and what I do often with my advanced tarot students, I take it one step further and I go, okay, when have you seen this on television? I mean, television's a great example. Like, there's constantly things going on in television, in dramas and in comedies, and that are reflected in the tarot. Because as I said, there's a very big reflection of life in there. So things like being in a situation where you have a partner who you just can't get over, and every time you see them, you can't stop thinking about them, and you act a little crazy around them, and you feel like they can snap their fingers and you will run to them. You know, that's very much like having an addiction of the devil. And so that's in there. That's part of, you know, nearly, we've seen that in a million Hollywood movies. So look at your own life. Start with your life, because you are going to recall your own life much clearer than you will if you choose other people's. But if other people's are a great backup. So I would do that definitely as my first point of call. Now, the other thing, and I do say this in the course, if you can, I really encourage you to be writing down everything I say. I know it's laborious. I know it takes a long time. I know people have, in the past, they've said, oh, can't you just give me all the answers? And I'd love to give you all the answers. And I think I've mentioned, like, I have taught people live like that, but I've found that next week they come back and they don't remember anything I've taught them. So if you can put what the wands are in your words, like I say it, and then you pause and write it down, and then you have a little play with the cards, and if you can put that in your own words, you will just be the powerhouse of tarot. You won't have to freak out and go, what did she say about that? Because you've gotten a much stronger connection to handwriting it and to connecting with it. And what I did when I was learning, and this is how I learned, I put it in my own words, and then I typed it up. And then I broke it down into little keywords, and then I kept going through it like that. So it was that repetition of going it through my own words rather than just turning to a book or a cheat sheet. So that's my powerhouse suggestion for how to remember it. But as I said, if you're a very visual learner, you might prefer just to say, okay, well, what are the images saying? What's going on, and write it down. What I find with this kind of learning, and even if you're not a visual learner, you might want to try this, is you often come up with your own unique interpretation. And something I love about teaching tarot is, like, when I mark your assignments that are in the course, it doesn't always have to be necessarily what Sal says is the exact definition, because my definitions have come through my own channeling and my own study. You might find that you feel differently about a card as what I've interpreted it, and that's okay. So you might see a card and think, look, this is what I really feel and what I believe is happening, and you can identify that in your readings. That's totally fine. So please don't get worried if you're going, look, well, it feels like this is happening in this card, but Sal says something else is happening. Like, don't worry about that. Just play with it as your beautiful intuitive journey. So I hope that's helped, sweetie, in being able to figure out how to remember your cards better. Just try to do the visualize thing, of just like, what's this card saying? Oh, sorry, my last little tip, learn the 4 suits. That's a really big one. So as long as you know that wands is action, and, you know, it can be about around the home, or it can be around your job or traveling. Cups is around your emotions. Your swords is around your ego and your mind and planning. And the pentacles is around money and business and finance. Then you'll learn much quicker, because as soon as the cards come out, you've already got a feel for what kind of reading it's going to be. So that's also a really good way to kind of to learn in a super quick way. So I hope that's helped, sweetie. So next, I just want to see if any, oh, hi, who else? Oh, hello, Valerie. Oh, I love that. I used index cards and created one for each card and put them in order, starting with suits. That is fabulous. That's very similar to what I did. It's like, create your own system. And I know, look, please understand how much I know how time consuming that is. It is, but tarot is an incredibly complex subject. It's a powerful subject. It will stay with you for life. And it is worth investing that time. So, you know, take that time to do that, and you'll get so much better results. And don't be afraid to do the course again. I've had people do it 2 or 3 times and go back and find stuff that helped them even more. Like, you've got lifetime access to your course. So please go in whenever you're feeling a little bit wobbly around a certain card, and make that attempt and effort to study it a bit more. Hi, Jana. Hi, Nicola. Hi, Bawana, Lewis. You're a visual learner. Perfect, Lewis. If you're a visual learner, then I would touch the card and look at the image and just see and put that in your own words. You might even like to try, you know, redrawing the card yourself and then putting a couple of little notes around it. So visual learners are really, you know, they only need a couple of little prompts and the actual visual. So definitely that's a great thing. Nicola, yes, I find the personal relationship is the key. So true. Like that is how I mastered the tarot, was I connected my personal experiences to it, and that way I was able to share that with my clients. So Brisha, I love that name. But Bawana, yes, as I said, it will take 6 months or more. You're worried it's taking too long to learn. No. And that's really common, sweetie. Like, don't worry. Most people think it's taking forever, but it is just a natural process so that it stays there for life. So Brisha, that's what you're currently doing. You're writing down the meaning and it's helping you remember. Perfect. Yeah, it is a great way. I know, as I said, it takes more time, but it will pay off in the long run. Hi, Jill. Awesome. Okay, so now the next question comes from Rachel, and Rachel's here live, so it's even better. So Rachel has asked about the judgment card and says that she gets a little bit confused around the judgment card. Now, first of all, interestingly enough, when I first launched my 10-week advanced tarot program, 3 or 4 people came in and I said, okay, pick the card that bugs you the most or that you get hung up on the most, and they chose that one. And so I've done a very intensive study about why the judgment card seems to be a bit of a block to people. I think it's because judgment in an interpretation that seems a bit traditional seems to be a negative. Like we look at judgment and it's like, oh, judgment day, like, you know, either the Terminator or the religious connotations that we're going to be judged and something bad's going to happen. And, you know, like it's got, judgment has a lot of negative connotations around it. So and interestingly enough, it's actually not a super negative card. It's actually a very empowering card. It's just that I think the word that's been used is, I just don't think it translates very well in our modern day circles, I guess is the best way to put it. So I see judgment more in the way that John Holland with the Psychic Tarot, he talks about the moment of truth. So for me, judgment is about hearing the calls of the angels or the guides or spirit and really going in and recognizing what role you have played in your own journey up until now. So it's the last leg before you hit the world and the universe, which is fantastic. It means you've only got one more hurdle to go, and it's kind of like dipping back into some of the issues that came up in the moon and some of the stuff that came up in the 9 of Swords, but you're more empowered now. You've got your tools. So I'll give you an example. So when a few years ago I was living in Manly in Sydney, and I'd set up my business there, and I was starting to get frustrated. I loved Manly. It's one of the most beautiful suburbs in Sydney. It's, you know, by the beach. It ticked so many boxes, and I was starting to get frustrated because all my neighbours were constantly renovating. And what happened to me was I went into a bit of the moon at first, where I went into why can't I find the perfect? I started looking for somewhere else to live, and everything else seemed noisy. And I was like, why can't I find the perfect place to live? And I went into a bit of that victimhood, I guess, which can happen in the moon. I had to dance with my shadow a lot, and I didn't quite conquer it. It was still, so when I pulled the judgment card was there to say, okay, look, it's time to take responsibility, Sal. Like, what's going on here? Like, where have you contributed to this experience? And I had to look at myself and reflect back on all my past experiences of living in different environments. And I had to go, actually, I'm living in one of the most popular suburbs in Sydney. So of course there's going to be a lot of renovations. Like that's actually just, that's a natural, of course. Like everyone wants to come and live here. If I didn't want to live in a place where there were if I wanted to live in a place where there were no renovations and it was peaceful and quiet all the time, I should move to the country and leave the city. So can you see how instead of kind of going into victim and I hate my neighbours and I'm so angry and why can't I find a house, I went into responsibility. And through that, I actually made a huge decision And I reached the world where I actually decided to actually completely relocate to a peaceful environment where I had less neighbors, and I found those solutions. So judgment is almost, that was like answering the angel's call. The angels were trying to say to me, look, just, you need to leave, you need to move. But I was stubbornly going in there and kind of fighting it. And it wasn't until I got empowered in my own decision making and being empowered by my own decisions that, you know, had perhaps been not really aligned with what I wanted to be and do. Like, as I said, I wanted a peaceful home, but I was living in the city, that I kind of went, okay, well, I have to take another path. And I answered the angel's call. So it's almost like judgment is about going in and going, okay, whatever's going on in my life right now that I'm challenged by, whether it's my relationship, my job, my home life, like anything that's going on, my health, how have I contributed to it? And not blaming yourself or beating yourself up, but just having a bit of quiet reflection to find that little gem, because in that gem you get empowered because you know you can change it then. So that's what happens for me with judgment. So I hope that's helped, Rachel. I hope that's helped you understand that when someone pulls the judgment card, it's just a moment of truth and a moment of being honest with yourself and going, okay, maybe I mean, obviously, let's not talk blame. Let's talk about what I've done to be part of this experience that I'm challenged by right now. And then you get your power back. So I hope, and you move on to the world, and so you've mastered it. So I hope that's helped. Lovely. I'll just check if there's any more. Oh, judgment is renewal. Yes, absolutely, because you are no longer in that process of kind of, you know, going around and round and round in circles about why this is happening to you. You are strengthening yourself by going in and finding that moment of truth that's meant to be your destiny. Thank you, Nicola. Okay, so, oh, good, Rachel. I'm glad that's helped. Awesome. So thank you for that question. That's a great question. And as I said, it's interesting how often it comes up. So my next question comes from David, who I apologise profusely to me. David actually sent me this question via email a couple of weeks ago, and I was just in the middle of launching my new course, and so it just kind of slipped through my cracks. So I'm excited to be able to answer it live here today. Now, David asks, what does he ask? Oh, I've lost it. Oh, so he wants to know, do I have to be psychic to read the tarot? Now, this is a really good question. And interestingly enough, I haven't been asked it that often, which is why I always get excited when I get asked questions that I haven't been asked that often. So the first thing I would say is it definitely helps. Like, it definitely helps. And if you're uncomfortable with the word psychic, then I would transfer that to using your intuition. So being able to intuitively feel like this is what this could mean. So it does help a lot. But if you really feel like you don't have any of those kind of gifts where you're trusting your intuition, or you can hear the voices of guides, or you can feel anything, then I would say, yes, you can still absolutely read the tarot, because the tarot, and in fact, probably more than oracle cards on some level, because the tarot does have very detailed descriptions. So in my course, for example, you could actually sit there and give someone a reading based on the descriptions that I've given you in the course, and that would communicate to someone the answers of what they need to know. And that's without even bringing in intuition. So for example, in the assignment with Samantha in our course, the question is, what, should Samantha take a new job, or what does Samantha need to know about finding a new job because she's unhappy in her current job? And many people answer that question very successfully by just using the 3-card definition that I've given in the course. And that would make a great reading for Samantha. She would get the information she needs. So absolutely, yes. But I would add, you would definitely have to be what I would call 3 times as diligent and disciplined about practicing every single day, and practicing in this group and practicing with people. So because you'd want to know those backwards, because if you're tuning into guides and angels and using cards and you're still a bit wobbly about some of the cards, you can often get clairvoyant information or clairaudient information or other information that comes through that can assist you. But if you've got none, if you feel like you don't have any of those gifts, then I guess the first suggestion is you could do one of my courses or someone else's courses on how to improve your intuition and how to tap into your clairvoyance. Or if that's not really where you want to go, then just backwards learn those tarot definitions. Like learn them like the back of your hand, and like, you know, say them in the shower, say them when you're on your morning walk, and then you will feel confident when the reading comes out. So I hope that's answered that part of your section. Now, the second question, you're a bit worried that you're going to finish the course and you'll find that you're rubbish at it because you want to make a business at it. Now, that does, again, I've had, this question has come up before. Now, the first thing I do with a question like that is to go, this course is a great foundation for learning the cards. So if you study it, and as I said, if you repeat it and use some of these techniques I've talked about today, you'll be able to know those cards backwards and how to read them in those different positions for the different themes like money, love, and career. You'll be able to do that in, you know, very, very successfully. If you want to go out and run a business, now that's a little bit different, because I would suggest, and I know you said something about you're worried you're going to go to Mind, Body, Spirit and you won't get any clients. Now, the first thing I would say is big congratulations for even considering Mind, Body, Spirit, because I've often seen people, they get very excited about wanting to work online, but going and doing a festival or a fair like that is an amazing baptism of fire. Like it's amazing to do it. It's high adrenaline. It's terrifying. When I first did my one, I was terrified. Like it really is scary, but it's amazing what energy you can draw in and being able to successfully read for people. I would say though, so congratulations on definitely being brave to do that, because I think everyone should definitely try something like that if they can, like some kind of fair or festival. But I would say when I did my first Mind, Body, Spirit festival, I had practiced. I'd done at least 20 free readings, and I'd done close to nearly 40 paid readings. So just to give you that example, that was 60 readings I'd done before I went and did one of those. So I would suggest, I'm not saying everyone has to do what I do, please don't think that, but I definitely probably wouldn't go to a Mind and Body festival and start reading unless I'd done some practice readings at least, and a couple of paid readings as well. Like I'd want you to feel confident that you can read before going and doing something like that. So I just say that. So what I'd suggest, David, is jumping in the group and offering to practice on 3 people and, you know, getting confident. And then, you know, when you feel like you've got the confidence and you feel like you're nailing the tarot readings and people are saying, oh, thank you, yeah, that makes sense, then you go off and do a festival, because that way, you know, you feel like you've got the gifts, you've got the tools, you feel like you've actually got the kit that you need to go there. So I'm hoping that kind of helps in that way. Definitely this group, I created it so you guys could practice with each other, because that's really important to building up your confidence. And as I said, you don't have to go out and do 40 paid readings. That's just the timing of where I was in my life that I had done that. But definitely make sure you have done a big chunk of free readings before going out there and being in a Mind, Body, Spirit festival. So I hope that helps. Now, you also mentioned that you've been advertising, but you haven't been getting any clients, and that you do Reiki as well. So the first thing I'd say is, if you've already got some Reiki clients, I would actually start bringing some of your tarot cards, just a little brief reading, not a big one, into your Reiki sessions if you can. That's really powerful. I'd actually, you know, maybe at the end of the session ask them to pick a couple of cards and just see if it's reinforced what you've picked up on your clients in the actual state of when you've been doing Reiki on them. Now, but if you're saying you don't have any Reiki clients and you've started advertising and nothing's happened, the first thing I'd say is it's really important, and I talk about this a lot in the new course I've just released, Manifesting Abundance for Healers and Psychics, that I've just put out on Udemy. I talk about how if you are advertising and you're not getting clients, then there's probably about 3 or 4 different reasons. And the best place to start is to figure out what the most important reason is and tackle that one first. So the first one can be what I call a very practical reason. And that is simply that you actually haven't mastered how to advertise, how to put an ad out. So advertising is a skill. So for me, for example, I had to learn how to market myself. I had to do that. I had to take some courses. I had to look at what others do and imitate them and find my own voice within it. When I first started marketing, and I had to spend some time on the brochures, and I had to really try to connect with who I was trying to help, and then go one step further and learn a little bit more about how to make sure I wasn't wasting my time marketing. So that can sometimes be a practical reason, is that it might be that the copy that you're sending out there is not appealing to your potential audience. So that could be happening. So maybe look at doing something about that and looking into a bit more about learning about how to write good copy, or how to be able to, you know, put your offers out there in a way that appeal to people. So that's definitely something that you could do. The second reason could be simply that there is a block. Now, and those of you who have done my past life course and who have done my Boost Your Psychic Gifts with EFT tapping course know how passionate I am about that. Like, there could actually be a block to your psychic gifts, or a block to you getting out there. Like, you could fear that you're going to be exposed. You could fear you're going to be judged. You could fear people will think you're going to get it wrong and that your reputation will be ruined. So I do suggest, if you can do one of those courses, like either shifting your blockages to getting yourself out there, or looking at any past life and see if that's affecting you, or if not my course, someone else's, and just go in and see why that's happening. But please don't beat yourself up if you're not getting clients straight away. Like, business is a very progressive thing, and I talk about that a lot in this new course about manifesting abundance, is that it doesn't happen overnight. Like, I've never met a psychic or a tarot reader or a healer who's just suddenly advertised and 50 people have shown up on their doorstep. Like, it's something that you progressively get better at. And running a business itself, it's like, I guess the best analogy I can give you, it's a little bit like if you are a medical student and you're studying medicine, then you don't straight away go out and, you know, start performing surgery on people. You go through an internship and you learn how to do it through, you know, through practicing, and you have that kind of experience. And same with, like, say if you're a lawyer, for example, you go to law school and you study and you know the law and you graduate and you've mastered the law. However, if you're going to set up your own shop, then you still have to master some aspects of business. You have to learn some of those practical, fundamental things about how to run a business. So please don't freak out if people haven't been beating down your door straight away, because there is a little bit of a process. It doesn't happen straight away. And I always suggest to people, I always say, look, please make sure you've got some bread and butter jobs or bread and butter money while you're building up your clients. It's a very incremental thing. I have not seen it in my experience where someone puts themselves out there and they're suddenly inundated with booked up being weeks in advance so they can run a full-time business. It's something that happens very progressively. And I do suggest, from my own experience and working with clients, that you are along the way clearing your blocks, just continually clearing any money blocks, clearing any blocks to your psychic gifts, clearing any blocks to feeling that you're going to be judged for being a psychic or a healer. So that could be what's behind why there's no response. So what I would do, David, is go back and look at the what advertising you've done. Just give it a quick little look and go, okay, could I have worded this differently? Maybe I could target certain markets. Like, so for example, maybe I'm just going to offer love readings, or I'm just going to offer business readings, or I'm just going to offer healing sessions to do with back injuries. Like, definitely look at that, because that can help as well. And also look at, you know, either looking a bit more about marketing and business as well, because that could help you with being able to post offers. So I hope that's helped, sweetie. Now, next question. I think I've got it. Oh, no, Rachel. Oh, no. Oh, sorry, I've totally... Oh, it's actually, someone's here's asked this question, so I can actually... Where are we? Oh, April. Wonderful. She says she has a degree in marketing communications. It can take a while to gain clients, and sales marketing suggestions are a good starting point. Thank you. Yeah, look, I think we forget that. And as I said, I talk about a lot about that in this new manifesting course. We forget that actually it does take time to run any business, like a psychic business, a real estate business, a cafe, any business that anything that you're starting to earn money from, it does take time. Even if you're running a market stall at a local fair, that's something, it takes time for people to hear about you and to come and see you and to repeat shop with you. So just have that patience. You know, I think it's incredibly brave that you're wanting to go to Mind, Body, Spirit, and that you're advertising yourself, like, good on you. And as I said, just go back in and have another look and see if there's anything you could tweak there. Bummer, it's 4 a.m. here, Gil. Can't usually watch the live. I know, I'm sorry. Australian time is the worst time for many people. We're on the other side of the world. I'm very sorry. But I will definitely, let me know what times are best for you, and next time I'll try and schedule it closer to that. So shoot me an email. Now, Melanie's asked a great question, and I've only ever been asked this a couple of times, and I really love this question. So she posted today in the Q&A board on Tarot Card Success, she said, so when you pull an extra card at the end of a 7-card spread, if it's a negative card at the end, you know, if you're pulling an extra one to get, you know, to get some positive stuff at the end, isn't that just sugarcoating it? Now, that's a great question, and I totally understand why it would seem that. And so I wanted to just sort of hopefully interpret it in a way that makes a bit more sense. So for me, it's not, when someone pulls a negative card as their final card, me pulling an additional card doesn't mean I'm invalidating that final card. In fact, I'm emphasizing that the importance of that final card. And what I mean by that is the extra card for me is just, okay, a challenge is going to come up for you. So say, for example, it's the 3 of Swords. So the 3 of Swords is all about disappointment and grief. And if that's your final card, then rather than leave it by saying, okay, in the next 12 months, you're going to be experiencing lots of grief, I pick an extra card to say, if you master this card, this is what could happen. So, and say the extra card I pull is the Sun, then I say, okay, so the lesson of disappointment and grief is to not go too much into your head and start beating yourself up about it, and to start letting it mentally incapacitate you. So it's a bit different. So the 5 of Cups is a very different type of grief. The 5 of Cups is that heartbreak where you're just utterly heartbroken and, you know, depleted in your heart energy. Whereas the 3 of Swords is where you just, your head has just gone exploded with disappointment, like, and you feel like, what on earth am I going to do now? And it just feels like such an incredible heart loss. But it's a different kind of mental energy. Like, it's like a head heartache. I know that sounds a bit weird, but your head's the one that's going crazy. It's not that physical sensation in your heart that you get when you've been heartbroken and you're kind of hollow. I hope that makes a bit more sense. So I look at that and I go, okay, so if you, yes, there's going to be a challenge. There could be some, it might not work out how you thought, but if you keep going, if you're willing to let go of that disappointment, then you can have some happiness. So I'll give you another example. Say the final card you pull is the Tower. So say you're asking about, should I start this new business? And the final card you get is the Tower. Now, rather than just leave the person with saying everything's going to come crashing down, you're going to get a shock, and, you know, rather than leave someone with that, I'll pull another card. And if, say, that card is something like the, let's just say, the 6 of Wands. So I'd say, okay, so you're not going to straight away go to victory. So victory, the last card doesn't become the prominent card of the outcome. The prominent card of the outcome is still the final card that you pulled before you pulled the extra one. It's just that what you're saying is that if you master this, this will be a result. So the mastery of the Tower is being able to go back and look at your foundations and see why everything fell apart, why this shock took place, being able to go in and say, okay, my foundations were a bit weak. I really didn't, you know, I actually kind of sensed all along there was something wrong with my job, or it was already a job I didn't really want to do. And being able to go back in and look at that, if you're willing to do that and master that spiritual lesson, then you get that more positive outcome of that fresh card. Now, people have often asked before, what happens if I pull another card and it's a negative card? So in the course I released last year, Master Health Readings, about how to do health readings with tarot and oracle cards, I talk about how, especially in health journeys, that can be quite common, because if someone's had a long-term health injury or a long-term chronic illness, then often that might not be resolved in a 12-month spread. As we know, and any of us who have had, you know, friends or experienced loved ones or ourselves long-term chronic illnesses, this can be a journey that takes 2 or 3 years, and there can be quite a bit of experimentation and trial and error before the solutions are found. So in that course, for example, I give a sample of, with a woman, you know, pulling as her final card a negative card, and then pulling another card and it was negative, and then another card was negative before we got to a positive. Now, you might start going, well, this is getting a bit silly. You're just pulling negative cards and you get a positive one. But what I'm trying to show is the journey. So it's like, okay, say the negative card that they pulled was the 9 of Swords. It's like, okay, you're going to feel like your head's done you in and you're going to feel anxious. But if you master that, the quicker you master that, the quicker you're going to fly through those other cards. So if you look at the tarot and look at every single definition as something that needs to be mastered, then that final card and adding an additional card will actually strengthen the card, and it will strengthen the reading. So I hope that's helped in Melanie, or anyone who's here, because Melanie, I answered her already on the Q&A board. But I hope that helps anyone who's a bit wondering why I choose that extra card. So now the last question I have, and I'm Rena, I think it's Rena. Sorry if I've said your name wrong, darling. She asked if, I think it's galbanum, which I've never heard of, which I would love to know more about. As an essential oil, can you clear your cards with that instead of frankincense and sandalwood? Absolutely. Like, for me, whatever works for you in your ritual with the tarot is the best thing to do. So I just use frankincense and sandalwood because I love them, and it's always worked for me. And there's, especially with sandalwood, that sensory thing straight away activates my psychic gifts, and because I only use it with that, I don't use frankincense in any other area in my life. So it's got a very strong association with connecting to spirit. So that's why that works for me. But definitely whatever works for you is definitely what I would do. Hi, Melissa. How are you? Lovely to see you. Amand, yet to study in depth. Yeah, look, and don't worry, you've got lifetime access to your course. You don't feel like you have to rush it. Like, some people can take a year or two, some people can do it in 6 months, some people get it done quicker if they're practicing more. So please don't fret about that. You've definitely got lots and lots of time. Oh, thank you. It's great motivation to see you live. Wonderful. Now, if anyone else has any questions, this is the perfect time. Thank you, Melody. Love my positivity. Lucinda, hey you, darling. Lovely to see you. Christina, hello. Mercedes, hello, gorgeous ones. So any other questions? Do you put oil directly on the cards? I do, and I might get howled out of town by aromatherapists. I don't know if you meant to do it. Like, that's how I do a lot of my stuff. I don't know. Look, for me, it intuitively just felt right. The first time I picked up my frankincense, dabbed a bit on, and I just drew. I draw figure eights. I'm a big fan of figure eights in my psychic development, so I just draw figure eights on them. And that's how I do it, and I've always done it like that. So, yeah, so I do put them. I don't know if you meant to, but that's what I do. Yana, sorry, Yana was the one who asked me about the essential oils. Thank you, darling. I think Rena asked something else. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. As I said, I'm going to be here for a couple more minutes. If you want to pop anything in the chat box, I'm really happy to answer anything you've got to say. Oh, one more thing before I go. I just want to say something very quickly about posting in the tarot group here. For those of you who post in Tarot Mastery, I just wanted to quickly say something. I mean, it happens so rarely, which is amazing. Like, we've got a group of nearly 3,000 people, but occasionally there can be a little bit of conflict or misunderstanding between two people who are offering readings for each other in the group. Now, if that happens, the first thing I would suggest you do is please don't post about it in the group. Like, please don't, mention someone's name, or please don't, go in the groups. First, come to me. I'm your best direct call. So email me or email Kathy, and wait till we get back. Sorry, I just hit the thing. Wait. So I sit at my desk. Wait till I get back to you, because the thing with Facebook communication, like Facebook's a gem for us communicating, but what happens is sometimes like I would say 70% of the experiences I've mediated between people in Facebook groups have been an actual misunderstanding. And when I've gone back and looked at the different text messages or emails people have sent to each other, I've realized that there's actually just miscommunication, and it's nobody's fault. No one's to blame. It's just that the communication was misguided. And that's because Facebook isn't the most really efficient way to communicate. Like, I know my own husband, he now will refuse in his business and with his friends to communicate with text messages because he feels that you don't get the inflection, and people sometimes don't, they miss word. Like, and the English language is so complex. Like, words can very easily sound different. They can sound in different contexts. So first, if someone has said something or done something when you've been exchanging a reading, or you feel like somehow it hasn't been an honourable exchange, then reach out to me first and just wait till I can deal with it. Let me know who it is and I'll reach out to them and try to resolve it. It's something I wanted to say is the first thing that can happen, and I've seen probably what would solve 70% of it, is if you could, when you're posting, I want to do something for testimonials or feedback, or I want to exchange, please put time frames. Or as soon as you start connecting with each other, say, look, I can do this within the next 3 days. I'll get back to you in the next 3 days, and communicate. Like, if for some reason you're running late, let people know, because we often don't know what's going on in each other's lives. Like, maybe one of your children got sick, maybe, you know, you had to do extra work at your day job, and so you haven't, like, and that person's waiting for you to get back to them, but it's been days and days. And so that person feels forgotten, and then they feel like they've just either been used or that, you know, you're not honouring the agreement. So please communicate with each other. Look, I can do this in the next week. Don't feel pressured. There's no pressure to rush it. Just, you know, if you feel like realistically I can do 3 in the next week, I'll get back to you within 7 days. And if you're running late, just communicate that way. I feel like that would actually probably really help a lot of people if you put some kind of time frame there. Now, the other thing I was going to say, I did notice a while back someone had posted that they were getting really frustrated because people said they'd return their testimonials or feedback and they never got back to them. Now, I would say a certain percentage of this could happen because of Facebook Messenger. Now, I think Facebook Messenger is highly inefficient myself. Those of you who have been in here for a while know that I don't communicate through Facebook Messenger. I get people to email me, and that's partly because I get so many Udemy add-in requests, so I get Kathy, my VA, to deal with them, and everything gets jumbled. But what I suggest you do instead of Facebook Messenger is, yes, message each other to say, hi, would love to take you up on your offer for an exchange or whatever. This is my email address. Let's connect via email. Because email's much easier to check, because some of us don't go in and check Facebook for 3 or 4 days. So you might have someone who's waiting to hear back on your reading and they just haven't been into Facebook for 3 or 4 days. So that, I think it's a better way to just try to connect through email. I think that it's a bit more personal and you won't get lost in 50 different messages that happens sometimes with Facebook. And I've actually lost messages in Facebook. Like, messages have just vanished in Facebook. So I would definitely think about, if you're someone who's regularly practicing in the Facebook group for exchanges and things like that, then connecting with each other via email. But I would add with that, please don't use people's email to follow them up and you know, badger them for paying for things. Like, please be really subtle, you know, be respectful of people's emails. And what else was I going to say? There's one more thing. Oh, yes. Now, testimonials, I was going to say, look, give a time frame for a testimonial. Someone did it brilliantly today and I got very excited. Someone posted today, I would like my testimonial back within 5 days. So that gives someone, you know, so that way, if you think, well, I probably won't have time to get a reading and give a testimonial, then don't take up the offer. Like, that way, that person doesn't feel like they have, you know, given you something and you haven't really honoured the service. I will also add one last thing about testimonials. Now, I think most people are generally quite honourable about returning testimonials, but sometimes people find it a bit intimidating because maybe the reading didn't resonate on every different level. And that could be for many reasons. Like, the person you're reading for might have been going through a rough time. They might have not been thinking about the question while you were tuning in for them. There could be, they might have had a baby screaming in the background and that kind of knocked them off a bit. Like, there could be many different things going on. So if you feel like like someone's given you a reading and it didn't quite resonate, like don't just ignore that person. Like just say, look, try to find a positive in it. Try to say, look, I really liked how you did this. And if you can find nothing positive, then say, hi, look, I'm sorry, the reading just didn't really resonate with me that much. I'm not really comfortable giving feedback. So you're giving feedback, that is feedback, but I'm not comfortable giving a testimonial, because we obviously don't want people just giving you a testimonial because you gave them a reading and they didn't like the reading. Like that's kind of not going to help your business. So that's, but, and you know, I understand though, in that, if you're willing to do that, then you are exposing yourself to some rejection, and my heart really goes out to you, and I have experienced that myself. So you do need to be prepared that if you're asking for testimonials, someone might come back and say, look, this didn't really rock my world. And so one way around that is, I would say very clearly in the beginning, I am a beginner. I'm just learning. And if you do that, then people will be a lot more generous. And I also know that people sometimes in groups, when they're taking up free readings, they often expect that it's going to be this incredible 1 hour reading of, you know, like a psychic that's been reading for 30 years. And so people do have unrealistic expectations. So for those of you who are accepting free offers in this group, please keep that in mind. Like, we're here to learn. Be very gentle with people that you are that are reading for you, and please honour them with a thank you. Please honour them in supporting them, and you know, please try to communicate with them and clarify in any kind of feedback. Like, that's really, really important, and then that will hopefully feel a lot better for everyone within this learning environment. Okay, what recommendations do you have for clearing the energy before or after a reading? Great, that's a great question. So I don't know if you've done How to Be Psychic, but I mention a lot of different tips in that, but just briefly off the top of my head, I am a big fan of smudging. I do smudging, I use incense, I go outside, I stomp on the ground 5 times. I do a whole lot of, so in Psychic Readings Intermediate, I talk about how I will reconnect with the earth very strongly, and I will physically, I will do like what's called a cutting off, and I will cut that energy off from that person. So I do that between every single reading to make sure that I'm not bringing the reading into the next space. I'm not bringing it into the next reading. And I also do it for my own sanity, because otherwise I'd be spending the next hour or two going, did I do that right? Did I say that right? Should I have said that? Oh, I've just remembered this. And, you know, that's also something I do so that I'm not still continually reading for that person. So definitely any kind of smudging, incense is great, stomping on the earth outside, walking in nature, just getting yourself away, and then asking the angels just to disconnect you. Just say disconnect now, and that's one big way I do it. Kenny, thank you, pleasure. Yes, Samantha. Yeah, look, always better to message the admin rather than posting. I agree, it does. And that's only because, I mean, I guess the reason is that we know each other here, but we don't know each other here. So it's a little bit like walking into a party and launching into complaining, and people looking at you and they don't know who you are, and they're like, why is this person complaining? What's going on? Like, Facebook is a little bit like that. So if you post a complaint, even if it's a really legitimate complaint, people will often kind of jump all over you because they won't know where you're coming from because they don't know you. So that's why it's better to reach out to me, and then I can try to sort out the best I can what's going on before we jump into, you know, everyone jumping in and jumping all over each other. And I actually would like to also add, it's also important because part of our sacred work together is that your communications between you and someone else that you've done a reading for is confidential. Like, it should be confidential. We should never be posting, you know, any kind of communications that's gone on for someone that you've read for, because they put their trust in you. Definitely that should not be happening. Like, it's not a great thing ethically to be sharing contents of readings or to be posting, you know, any kind of interactions between people that you have had, because that's, as I said, that's actually a breach of confidentiality. So just please keep that in mind, that it's much better to reach out to me and to see how I can manage it. And if I see that someone, I've only ever had to do this once in the whole 4 years that this beautiful group's been going, but if I do see someone has been behaving absolutely, you know, outrageously and abusing someone, then I will remove them from the group, and I have done that. So, you know, I am here to help protect you, but please, before, as I said, posting, just reach out to me first. How do I recommend doing practice readings through email? So I don't know if you've heard about my 10-week advanced tarot program, but I do a whole section in there about online readings and email and phone and Skype readings. So if you want to know more, I would definitely send me an email on sal@saljade.com and I can share some information with you about that. But very briefly, what are email readings? The first thing to remember is that you need to allow more time. So email readings take longer than any other kind of readings because you have to take that time to type them up. So just keep that in mind. And second, what I do is I tune into the energy and I ask permission from the guides and angels and from that person for me to pick cards for them. So you actually choose cards for them and then you write them out. And I think email readings are a fantastic way to get great practice in, because you're not working off some of those non-verbal signs if someone's right in front of you, or if they look a bit doubtful and you start to panic. They're a really great way to practice being able to read completely in your own self. It's a really great modality, and I love doing email readings for that reason. So definitely it's a great way to just tune in. But yes, the people don't have to choose the cards. You just ask the angels to choose the best card for that person. Awesome. Okay, thanks guys. I'll just a couple more minutes, see if anyone else wants to answer anything. And before I go, so I will be in here next month doing the same thing again. If throughout the month you think of a question that you'd love me to answer live, you could just do #Sal or whatever, or tag me, and I'll keep that in. And I will, like with this one, I'll post it a week in advance. Now, if for some reason you don't go on Facebook very often, please don't worry, because I will send this out as a link to a on YouTube for you that you can do through the Udemy course. So you can actually just go, if you get your educational things, I'll send that out tomorrow, an educational email with a link, and you can go watch it anytime. If you're searching in the Facebook group for these videos, they're going to be just under video. So if you go to a laptop and you go into the group on the side, it says videos, just click and it will say February, or when we do March, it'll say March. Sam, would I suggest learning all the cards and practicing the 3 card spread perfectly, moving on to horseshoe spread? Look, yeah, absolutely. Great question. Yeah, look, I would, because the horseshoe is a different spread. I don't think jumping, I've structured that course the way I've structured it, because jumping into the horseshoe, you're starting to go, okay, I don't know what that's going to mean in that. And obviously there's not enough cards just in the wands to do the horseshoe, because there's only 10 cards in the first lot of wands. So yeah, I would master them all and then do 3 cards and then move on to horseshoe, definitely. So that's how I got good at tarot, was I started with the 3 cards and then I built it up and worked through it like that. Awesome, Melissa, you're going to go check out the course? Awesome. Okay, lovelies, thank you so much. It's been so wonderful to have you all here. And as I said, if you need me, just email me on sal@saljade.com, or if you forget that, just team@saljade.com. That's Kathy, and she'll forward it on to me. And I hope that's answered everybody's questions today. And have an amazing week. Oh, so before I go, in case some of you didn't know, you do have subtitles on this course now if you want them. Just go and click on CC in your course and they'll come up under that and you'll get subtitles. Okay, I'll speak to you soon. Bye.